EGM Network.
Hi, welcome to Silver Linings. I am one of your hosts. I'm Janine Barrows, and the other one over here is hiding. That's Raul Perez.
Hello, everybody.
And we are here today with Mark Packard from Rooney and Rooney, and we're going to have an interesting conversation about student needs, family struggles, and what IEP means. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this opportunity.
Oh, and it's an opportunity for us. So tell us a little bit about how you ended up becoming an attorney, how long you've been an attorney, what's your specialized field, before we delve into today's topic.
Sure. So I've been an attorney for a little over 15 years now, worked in many capacities, but here at Rooney and Rooney, I do a lot of the family law mediations and the like, as well as assist with civil litigation, criminal defense work.
Ooh, that's a mouthful.
Yes, quite a bit. I wear a couple hats. But before I was ever a lawyer, I was a teacher.
Yay!
So, right.
Our true heroes.
Yes. And that has opened up an area of law that is traditionally in this area underserved. There really aren't very many attorneys who assist in education law. And so that's something that recently I partnered with a organization known as Your Child's Voice to assist people in the community with helping understand IEP law, 504 law, as well as advocating for the children so that their voice is heard in the education system.
Can you mentioned, what was the name of IEP?
IEP, so it's an Individualized Educational Plan. That is a federally protected statutory, we'll say it's a contract effectively between parents and the student, as well as the school district, as well as the federal or state government. And it's basically, it's the rules that they all play by so that every child has the same level of opportunities in the education system. So you'll hear a lot today. I'll mention accommodations quite a bit. The idea is it puts everybody on notice what kind of things that child needs to have access and success, opportunity for success in a school setting.
That's got to be a little challenging in our small of a town. I mean, we have a wonderful community and a lot of philanthropy that occurs here, but this sounds like it requires a lot of specialists that could be useful to children who have a different learning level or challenges that impede a traditional education, right?
Right. So, beautiful community, a lot of people who their hearts are absolutely in the right place. But we're not near a major university. We're not near a major teaching hospital. We're not near any major psychological services. So there is a wide spectrum of children who have special needs. What does special needs mean? It can mean anything from a physical disability, mental disability, behavioral disability. It could be a temporary issue. It could be a permanent issue. It could be anywhere on that spectrum. And we just don't necessarily have individuals in the area who cater to every possible outcome, every possible specialization, every possible disability. And so oftentimes we are locked in who can provide services to children who need that extra level of attention. Do we have someone who fits the bill of giving that level of attention?
And if we don't, how do we go about courting them, right?
Right.
And whose responsibility is that to court those service providers for those children and families who require a shift in the traditional education program?
Right. And oftentimes it initially falls on the parents.
Oh, boy.
And so you have a child who you clearly love and you want the best for.
Absolutely.
And all the stress associated with you have some kind of a diagnosis or an understanding of what's going on, but you're not the doctor. You're just hearing from somebody, this is what your kid needs. And then you go, well, then who helps me with that? And then you hear, okay, well, there's somebody down in West Palm, or there's somebody down, up in Jacksonville, or there's somebody in Miami who can help you.
It's like
and you
hitting
go,
a brick wall.
Right. How do you do that? And then when you finally do get a hold of that person down in West Palm or Jacksonville or Miami, that they've got a 2.5-year waiting list. Now what do you do? And so the question was, who's responsible for that? Well, if that IEP is in place, if that 504 is in place, the responsibility falls on the school district. But they are not advertising that.
Now, but before you keep
I was just gonna
going,
say, go ahead.
you mentioned 504,
Mhm.
and like, so what does that mean?
So IEPs and 504s, kind of the easy way of describing it is it a temporary issue, or is it more likely to be a long-term ongoing issue? So 504 is a temporary issue.
Okay.
You know, for instance, your child breaks their leg.
All right.
Well, that probably means that they need a little extra time to get from one class to the next class, right?
Right.
It probably, maybe they have some medication that they have to take during the day that helps them with, the pain or something else that was associated with it. Okay, that's an accommodation, because we don't exactly let kids take their prescription medication with them to every single classroom. Both of those things are now a contract that you go into with the school. It says, little Johnny gets an extra 2 minutes to get from classroom A to classroom B. Little Johnny gets to keep the medication in the nurse's office and has an opportunity that when it's time to take the medication, nurse administers the medication. That's a 504.
Okay.
Because presumably, little Johnny gets better, leg gets fine, everybody's happy, everybody moves on.
Right.
So it's a temporary issue. What if little Johnny, instead of having a broken leg, requires wheelchair assistance? That's more likely to be a long-term issue. It's a physical disability.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we have some other accommodations. It might be similar, maybe needs a little extra time to get to classes. Should probably have priority seating, should be able to have their seat closest to the door so that they're one of the first ones to get in and first ones to set up their stuff so that they have a little extra opportunity to do that. Again, the accommodations doesn't necessarily have to be this crazy
Vast
change
service provision.
Right.
Yeah.
But it would be helpful for the teacher who is teaching little Johnny to know, I have to keep this in the back of my mind, that I have to do something extra to make sure that this child has the same level of opportunity as everybody else in that classroom.
Oh, that makes sense, and it's fair, and it's what I think most of us as parents want for our kids, regardless of their learning capabilities or challenges.
Yes, I mean, there's no reason why that child should be put in a different situation just because he has a disability. So, for everybody to be on an equal playing field, the school makes adjustments so that everybody can be accommodated. Now, is there someone, for example, you mentioned the school board, is there someone who has a title that this is what they're supposed to be doing, that they're supposed to be looking out for this and setting plans for schools so that they can implement in each school?
The beauty of it is when everything is working well, there's a whole team that's assigned to each child to make sure that everything is being addressed. So there is the ESE department, so Exceptional Students Department. That exceptionalism can be any sort of disability. It could also be if the child is gifted, has special behavioral issues, any number of things. They help to monitor. Each of the individual teachers helps to monitor and gets input. The school district themselves, administration, will be involved in those things. So in a typical IEP meeting, so when it is drafted what this contract is supposed to look like between the school, the child, and the government, that IEP meeting is not just the parent and somebody from the school. It's the parent, sometimes the child, sometimes multiple caseworkers, maybe just one caseworker. There's going to be teachers who are involved in the process. There's at least one administrative official who's involved in the process. So, I mean, I've never been in an IEP with fewer than like 7 or 8 people, and I've seen it get up to like 20, 30, depending upon what's going on.
Yeah.
Every child is a beautiful, unique individual, and that's what that first letter in that IEP stands for: individual, individualized. You need to address what is going on with that individual child, and then come up with a game plan from there.
Yeah.
So when it's working well, it's a whole team approach.
But there's going to be the individuals or the families that have unique challenges or are not getting a direct feed of what they need for their child in the system, something has gone askew. And I know that that will lead us into our next section. But if you don't mind, Mark, we're going to take a small commercial break and then we're going to come back because we couldn't be here without them.
Right.
All right. We'll be right back. Just a moment.
Create your restful retreat and save 50% now on all Tommy Bahama and Lexington furniture during the Home for the Holidays event at Sunshine Furniture. Sophisticated looks with a mix of coastal and Caribbean styles, Tommy Bahama offers everything you need for your personal paradise and is all half price. At Sunshine Furniture, we have the largest selection of in-stock coastal and casual sofas, love seats, chairs, slipcover sofas, bedroom dining, and occasional furniture from Four Seasons, Capri, Best Chair, Hooker, and Riverside. We're the outdoor furniture experts and have any style of patio furniture that you need, including a gallery of Made in America, Berlin Garden, Pollywood, Woodard, Lloyd Flanders, and Telescope. We specialize in replacement cushions, umbrellas, and fire pits. Come in now for our Home for the Holidays event and winter sale. Don't forget to visit our outlet and sales center directly across the street, Sunshine Furniture, 1295 US 1 in the Publix Plaza, Vero Beach. Visit our website at sunshinefurniturecasual.com.
Big news, Treasure Coast. Your favorite mortgage team just got even better. Introducing the same trusted faces you know and love, now with Union Home Mortgage.
Hi, this is Shannon Pohl.
Hi, this is Lucy Cranker.
And these high-producing team members bring decades of experience, unwavering honesty, and hearts of gold to every home loan. And here's the best part. Same local processing, underwriting, and appraisers you rely on. Contact Union Home Mortgage.
Visit us online at shannonCpohl.com
and LucyCranker.com.
Welcome back. We are so grateful for our commercial sponsors, but even more so for our show sponsors. I want to give a shout out to Dill Evans and Rotaback up in Sebastian, who've been providing family, elder care service law, and real estate law for almost over 30 years here on the Treasure Coast. If you ever have a question, please don't hesitate to reach out to them. I can personally assure you they're an amazing group. Thank you for joining us. Right before we went to break, we were starting to kind of put some pressure on Mark to give us some explanations of what happens when a crack appears and there isn't a service provision for that specific need, or a IEP failed, in some manner. What occurs? How often does that happen?
Unfortunately, it happens quite frequently. No matter how often you try to execute these plans with fidelity, sometimes either somebody doesn't get the memo or someone's interpretation of what is appropriate accommodation is different from someone else's. And so now there's tension in the works, right? So
I think you mentioned that it's individualized. Right. So, I mean, you might have the best plan in the world, but that plan might have been structured for a certain type of person. And as you mentioned, everybody has their own special needs. Yeah. We have to look at each case individually and figure out how do we adapt this plan to fit these students.
Right. And the reality is, teacher isn't dealing with one student.
No.
Teacher isn't dealing with 5 students. Teacher is dealing with 20, 30, or more students sometimes, depending upon what's going on. And so, yes, there are cracks in the system. The reality is that will occur. Many times it's a relatively easy fix. It's a come back together, get the team together, what's not working, how do we address it, and how do we fix it? And the nice thing about your IEPs and your 504 plans is that they are living documents. They are the rules that people play by, but can be modified and can be addressed depending upon how severe the issue is.
Yeah, I mean, we change as people, and so do our children, and so do their needs. So that makes sense.
Right, and especially when you're talking about children, and even more so at the very early ages of the developmental cycle, or that wonderful time when everybody's hormones start raging. Obviously, some major changes can occur in a very short amount of time. And so that's where the team really has to come together, and the parents and the child really need to advocate specifically for the child's needs and make sure that the school is aware of what's going on and what new accommodations need to be made and what needs to be modified and what's working, what's not working. Now,
and
that can be fixed relatively. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
That can be fixed potentially in an IEP meeting, but if there's resistance, now we get to start talking about where maybe we have to start talking about some stronger kind of level of involvement of advocacy. So maybe you do need an attorney who comes in and starts talking to you about what are your rights, what are the things that the school district really should be doing for the child that maybe there's resistance for.
And usually that resistance isn't out of malice, like we're not going to serve this group, but more out of functionality, opportunity, and financial support, right?
Right. So the reality of the situation is that we don't have a lot of individuals in the area who can cater to specific issues. For instance, say a child has, God forbid, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
There is a treatment paradigm for PTSD. Unlike many psychological disabilities, talking it out can actually do more harm than good. A counselor, a therapist, an individual who is not specialized and trained in treatment paradigms for PTSD can actually do more damage to the child than if they don't follow specific cognitive behavioral therapy paradigms. We don't have a lot of people who are specialized in that training in the state of Florida, let alone Treasure Coast.
Our coast.
Right.
Yeah.
So the resistance that comes in is just a reality. There's a handful of individuals who are capable of providing these treatment paradigms. There are only a certain number of hours in the day. There are only so many people that they can see. And so then the question is, well, so then what do we do? And so that's where some of the resistance can come in. The requirement by law is that that child be given fair and reasonable accommodations. What does that mean?
Especially when those accommodations are nowhere near available, even if the school district was striving to provide them. Courting professionals that are very specific in their industry and unique in their niche is difficult, but it often requires an excess of funding to get them here, or there rather. So I'm sure that we do have some challenges that are legitimate challenges for the school district and the state and the federal government to climb over to provide these services. But obviously in life, whether we're grocery shopping or looking for the best education program, we're going to have bumps in the road. We're going to have some challenges that come upon us. And I'm assuming that you had mentioned earlier, you yourself will help families in the law, in the legal system, navigate through that so that they can achieve those goals in conjunction with the school district. What does that look like?
Sure. So many times I will review an IEP or a 504 plan to try to look at what is being done currently. And then I have conversations with the child. I have conversations with the family. I have conversations with teachers if they want to. What seems to be working? What doesn't seem to be working? What is really helping the process and what is not? Thankfully, based off of my own background in pedagogy, the study of actual teaching.
I was going to say, what is pedagogy?
Right. So you can talk to a teacher about different educational styles and formulas and the like. So the old model of teacher stands in front of students and imparts wisdom upon the children has not been gold standard educational process or pedagogy for decades.
Wow.
Pulling out students who may or may not have, who have certain disabilities and the like has not been the gold standard for decades. Does it happen? Yes. Is it appropriate? More times than not, no, but sometimes maybe. So there's a lot of moving parts. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times I'll sit down with a family, we'll look at some of those moving parts, and a lot of times, because everyone just kind of, the status quo just is what it is, and this is the way we've been doing it, so that's the way we'll keep doing it. And that's not necessarily the appropriate response. That's not the best path.
It's the path of least resistance, but not necessarily the path that serves the entire population.
Right. And so you don't necessarily have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Mm-hmm. There are probably some good elements, and they're likely very good elements. I mean, ideally, if it's working, that plan got put together by a group of individuals whose best interest was the child. So theoretically, there should be, a lot of good pieces to that puzzle. But not everything is necessarily clicking. So now we have conversations about things. And especially when we're talking about children in the early stages of development, or as I said, that great old time when the hormones are really kicking in, sometimes a child will have a diagnosis that will mask other issues. Perfect example, autism spectrum. If you know a child with autism, you know a child with autism. That diagnosis has nothing to do with any other child who is on that spectrum. It is a purely individualized diagnosis.
Yes.
It has certain components to it that allow with the diagnosis so that you can kind of get to a crux of an idea. But you cannot treat one child with autism the same as another child with autism. Add in comorbid issues. That is, so you've got one diagnosis and you have maybe something else that's also going on at the exact same time. People are so focused on the autism that they maybe don't see the ADHD. Maybe they don't see the oppositional defiant disorder. Maybe they don't see that the child might have a biological issue going on. I've dealt with some children who have dietary issues. If a child isn't getting all the right nutrition because their body just isn't processing certain foods,
malabsorption and things,
how do you get a kid who's effectively starving to pay attention to what does 2 + 2 equal? You can't. I mean,
their realities are drastically different from the average student who's sitting there without that concern or challenge. Yes.
Right. And so when we're talking about advocacy, that's one of the major components that we have to deal with is you look at all the moving parts and you try to address the individual. You have to focus on that first letter.
Now, when it comes to these families and you're saying, you're reviewing some of these plans, I would imagine that the families understand that there is limitations to what the school can do. Yet they're still trying to do the best thing for their child. And, I would imagine that most of these families for their children just want what's fair. When you have to review these plans and talk to these families, do you get the impression that they want above and beyond what, the school might be able to offer? Because it is something that has to be fair and reasonable. Yeah. Right? There has to be a balance.
Sure. It is amazing to me what some people consider to be reasonable.
Well, we could fight about that all day being attorneys.
Right.
But
and that's certainly where having someone really advocating for the child can really come in. I am never given the impression that a parent wants anything but the best for their child.
Right.
Balanced against that, there's often the school has a finite amount of resources and so they are concerned with the bottom line. And to be fair, somebody has to
keep track of that.
Keep track of it and administer it. So there are realities. So you have to temper reasonability with, reality and ideally. However, we live in the information age. Zoom exists.
It does.
So some of these experts who before would not have been available are available now. Now, might it incur some additional cost from the district? Sure. But that's where parents have to advocate.
And that is their job to do that. And so I know a lot of families that have children with challenges. And so I want them to be able to reach out to you, Mark. How do they reach you? How do they touch base with you if they're having challenges with the school district and their child's needs?
Well, certainly you can absolutely contact me directly at Rooney and Rooney. You can either contact me through email, mark@rooneyandrooneylaw.com. You can contact our office at the phone number. It looks like everything's being provided on screen. Fantastic.
778-5400, right?
Correct.
Area code 772, yes.
Yes. And I'm happy to help consult with anything that's going on.
I love that.
And then additionally, if you reach out to Your Child's Voice.
Your Child's Voice, that was one of the groups you mentioned earlier, yes. Reach
Correct.
out for them for some additional support and education.
Correct.
Thank you so much, Mark. I wish we had more time. We're a 25-minute show. It's an in-depth conversation. Please, if you're a parent or family member with needs for your children and you're struggling to get what you need for them, reach out to Mark over at Rooney and Rooney. Thank you so very much. We'll see you next week.